Okay, now let's look at how to add flash buttons to the logo panel in Articulate Presenter. As in this example here where we've got 3 rollover buttons with up states, hover states, and down states. And in this case, they all link to slides within our presentation. However, you could still hyperlink out to external websites or a combination of both between your different buttons. Now, the great thing about this technique is that you don't have to know anything about Flash. We're going to be using this excellent little tool provided by Dave at davesolutions.com, which is going to automate this process for us, and which Dave has provided free of charge to the Articulate community. So a big thank you goes out to Dave at davesolutions.com for sharing this great tool. And I will include a download link for this tool in the description for this screencast. But before we jump into the mechanics of this technique, I want to remind you of the maximum dimensions of the logo panel in Presenter, which is 244 pixels wide by 324 pixels high, which is just over half of the sidebar. So when you're developing your buttons, you'll want to keep these dimensions in mind. And if your logo happens to be larger than these dimensions, it'll just get scaled down automatically to fit within these dimensions. Okay, so after you've downloaded the free Flash tool and extract the zip file, you're going to have 2 files, this free roller v2 executable and also SWFC. And both of these files need to reside in the same folder. There's actually nothing to install, it's a self-contained tool, so to launch it you'll double-click on Free Roller v2. And there's our tool. And we're going to skip adding buttons for just a moment and look at orientation. You can set your buttons to be horizontal or vertical. And because of the nature of the logo panel, you're probably going to want vertical buttons. However, with some creativity, you could come up with some horizontal buttons as well. And then we just need to decide what we want to call our SWF file. So I'll just call this countries. And now we're ready to add buttons. So we'll click on Add New Button, and you'll notice that you need 3 image files for your button, an up state, hover state, and down state. And if you don't already have button images, in most cases it's pretty simple to come up with your own if you create them in PowerPoint and then just save them out as PNG files. So we'll click on the Up button, browse to our image, and then do the same thing for hover and down. So there's our first button, and you can see thumbnail images at the bottom. And then we get to choose what type of link we want. Do we want to link to an external website? And if you do, you would type the URL here. Or do you want to link to a slide within your presentation? And if so, you would enter the slide number here. So I'm going to enter slide 2, and then click Create Rollover Button. So there's our first button. And then we'll repeat the process for buttons 2 and 3. And you're not limited to 3 buttons. Just bear in mind the dimensions for the logo panel when you're creating buttons. And the last button here will link to slide 4 in our presentation. So once you've added all of your buttons, you're ready to generate your SWF file. So click Generate SWF, and it will tell you if everything went right. You should have a new Flash Rollover file in the same directory as this program. And indeed, here is our SWF file. I'm going to double-click it to launch it in SWF Player so we can verify that indeed it did create it properly. Now the last thing you would do is go to PowerPoint, the Articulate menu, select Presentation Options, and then add this logo to your logo library. And then publish your presentation, and just be sure to select this logo for your presentation. And one last thing is, unlike with the Snagit examples that we looked at previously, you do not have to lock your presentation at optimal size. You can scale it to fill your browser window. So that's another benefit to this technique. So that's how you can add Flash buttons to the logo panel in Articulate Presenter.